Before starting my introduction, let me, dear participant, to tell you that many years ago I traveled with my husband Hubert to your beautiful country, Taiwan. We were blown away by the stunning landscape and had been privileged of meeting some very interesting people of the Fujian Catholic University. And we were highly impressed by your magnificent museum. Last but not least, I visited the Sacré-Cœur, or the Sacred Heart School in Taipei, because I myself was an alumna of this school in Bonn, Germany, and in Riedenburg, Austria. I truly have most lovely memories of your country. I'm all the more sorry that this time I wasn't able to return in person for the launch of the Chinese translation of my book. However, I'm delighted that you made it possible for me to talk to you with the help of the modern technology. It is the first time in my career that I'm addressing such a privileged audience without being present and seeing you in person, although you can see me. So I will all the more do my best to talk out of my heart. And now let me introduce to you my book, Marriage-Constancy and Change in Togetherness, for which you have kindly organized this event. I am very grateful to you for having translated my book into your language, because it is very dear to me, this book. And let me tell you why. My husband Hubert and I celebrated our golden wedding on the 21st of July in 2017. During our monthly spiritual conversation leading up to that big event, we made an inventory of our 50 eventful years of our togetherness. Where did we find blessing and constancy, was the first question. And which were our biggest challenge and changes in our marriage? During 50 years of marriage, not everything remains as it was in the beginning. We started off in our marriage thinking of the smooth years would continue forever. However, walking through life along our shared paths, we realized that we developed and matured at different speeds, which of course had consequences of our marriage. We then discovered that with aging, as a husband and wife, as a man and woman, huge changes were involved. Most importantly, we realized that crises in marriage do not disappear by themselves, simply by keeping silent about them. In whatever stage of your marriage you find yourself, you have to continue communicating with your partner to resolve crises together before misunderstandings take the upper hand and disappointment increase in strength during the years. By the way, this is one of the most important items in marriage preparation that is often overseen or not enough emphasized. One thing we should never forget when we consider getting married is that with joy and suffering are part of every life and hence also of every marriage. The path of marriage is a process of maturing in hopefully decades. Of course, we did not have one single spiritual conversation in the running up of our golden wedding. On the contrary, we tried to have this kind of spiritual conversation every month during 40 years. It was not always obvious, since my husband was a successful businessman and often on travel abroad. Sometimes any excuses would be lurking around the corner in order to postpone our exchange. Thanks to our perseverance, we were able to continue strengthening our relationship and establishing our life together with all its ups and downs. We received how important it was to regularly reflect on our blessings, but also to express as honestly as possible to each other our feelings about the difficulties we encountered. Here you discover already that marriage sometimes means hard work, but it is worthwhile. Indeed, a healthy and decent daily communication between husband and wife is the core business of each marriage. In my own experience as a marriage counselor, I realized time and again that men and women are often quite different in terms of their emotional experience and their communication of those experiences. Women feel more at ease to get the conversation started. Men often have a hard time talking about their feelings and need to practice more the communication better with their spouse. Sorry, dear gentlemen, for being so blunt. A good and constant communication between parents even sets a lifelong example not only to their own children, but also to other couples. This support can be very concrete, as our dear Pope Francis says. Couples who have learned how to do this well can share some practical suggestions which they have found useful. Planning free time together, moments of recreation with the children, different ways of celebrating important events, shared opportunities for spiritual growth. They can also provide sources that helps young married couples to make those moments meaningful and loving, and thus to improve their communication. This was a citation of Amoris Laetitia 225. As I said before, the marital story of every couple is identified by its own blessings, but maybe even more by its challenges. Challenges, therefore, are not always a reason for considering divorce, in spite of our search for perfection. On the other hand, not every marriage will succeed in coping with its challenges, but most married couples do desire constancy and want to master their challenges creatively. The intimate wish remains that one may grow old in dignity together, so that the marriage itself can grow with courage and wisdom into what we might call a personality. The ideal marriage does not exist, but husband and wife can strive to become one. For my husband and myself, the biggest challenge, right from the beginning, was to walk together in unintended childlessness and to face the sometimes nasty comments of society, family, and even friends. And so we had to learn the art to turn our predicament into a life of virtue. We had to learn to appreciate the creative possibilities of a shared growth within the changes and despite of the difficulties. Our calling and our mission as a married couple was to learn to receive the gift, if not of parenthood, then of friendship. Indeed, whether a couple has children or not, it is never good for the married partners to isolate themselves from others, to become too egoistic on the relationship. Therefore, we endeavored to have valuable encounters, exchanges and dialogue with all kinds of people in our professional life, with poor and rich, with politics, academics, from the church, men and women, religious and lay people, from our country as from abroad, young and old. It was only through the reciprocal and intimate exchange that affected and moved our hearts deeply that these encounters became particularly meaningful and valuable. Without these conversations on a large variety of topics for many decades with our friends in society and churches, our life would have developed in a shallow way. During our musings together in preparation of our 50th marriage anniversary, I felt a strong need to bring together all these aspects of our married life, our blessings and challenges, our constancy and growth, our exchanges and interaction with many friends. That is how this book, Constancy and Changes in Togetherness, came into being. I dedicated this book to my dear husband, who unfortunately died shortly after our celebration with the family and friends. So, when my husband and I started to reflect on all these aspects of marriage, family and spirituality, and related topics in today's society, we strongly felt the need to bring together a group of specialists, scholars, and practitioners to help society and the churches to advance in this field. And thus, we decided to found the International Academy for Marital Spirituality, so-called INTAMS, which was founded in 1989 in Brussels in Belgium. INTAMS is dedicated to the academic, international and interdisciplinary study of the meaning and relevance of marriage in contemporary society and the understanding of marriage in its various interpersonal, social, religious, spiritual and ecumenical aspects. We started our academy with the idea of establishing a center for teaching and research on marriage, marital spirituality and the family that would become a source of knowledge and information, a point of reference for scholars and practitioners in marriage preparation, and a forum for exchange and dialogue. We also kept in mind the married couples who wanted to deepen their marriage. We tried to bring together scholars and research results from different countries and cultural backgrounds and all Christian denominations and traditions. At the same time, we aim at promoting the dialogue between researchers and practitioners by fostering the integration of theory and practice. Concretely, we do this by teaching activities at the Catholic University of Leuven, by organizing conferences and colloquia on marriage, families and related topics, and through the publication of our biannual journal, Marriage, Family and Spirituality. More than ever, marriage and family are topics that deserve our attention. They form the smallest nucleus of our society, but they have the greatest impact. However, looking back on interims from the time it was established 31 years ago, we still struggle with the same question today, namely, how should we think about marriage in the 21st century? How is it understood? And how can one become aware of how marriage is in fact lived? And above all, how is all this to be brought into harmony with our Christian and Catholic theological and pastoral thinking? We all observe that today growing diversity of family forms and relationships has emerged. We have the traditional, normal family, but we also have unmarried couples with children, the LTGB, the lesbian, bisexual, transsexual, etc. families, divorced families, reconstructed families, mixed families, partners living in separate domiciles, asexual and child-free couples, marriage of 30, 40, 50 and even 60 years are more and more becoming an exception. How should one adequately value the commitments and resilience, the joys and hopes, as well as the frailty that characterize those relationships who do not fall under the category of normal, but who also aspire and hope for a lifelong commitment? Indeed, we must see how this new reality poses a challenge to marriage, to family, to children, to society, but also to our faith and to the church. However, when we truly have the desire to serve the Lord in the church, then we should be motivated by respect and act with love towards all marriages, those who belong to the people of God. We must accept the challenge to find answers and practical solutions that guarantee communion in fidelity to the gospel message. Indeed, challenged love can also mean a starting point of maturing. It is like a pearl in a shell. The real pearl of love within us wants to be freed and to go into the light. What is needed for us is to find, to work on, and to search for new models. After all, we are not all of us sometimes challenged by the frailty of our own love? Do we not also experience times during our life when our love is seriously unsettled? In Amoris Laetitia 219, Pope Francis reminds all baptized people of the Church that men and women, priests and bishops, married or unmarried people, to accompany with attention and care the weakest of her children, who show signs of a wounded and troubled love, by restoring in them hope and confidence like the beacon of a lighthouse in a port or a torch carried among the people to enlighten those who have lost their way or who are in the midst of a storm. In the end, this is what Intams wishes to concentrate on. Hence, the quotation which I have chosen as the title of the first part of my book, Carry Each Other's Burden. This comes from St. Paul, the letter to the Galatians 6.2. This phrase mirrors exactly the inspiration and the mission of Intams. The second part of your book in Chinese, entitled, O Lord, you have searched me and known me, of Psalm 139:1. This part digs even deeper into the beginning, namely of the beginning of life and the end of life. Where do we come from? Where are we going to? These are maybe the most important and mysterious issues each marriage and family will be confronted with sooner or later. Given the rapid pace of advancements in modern medicine, we have to be aware of the plurality of perspectives, beginning from the life of the fetus until the end of life. When we speak of the beginning of life, we mean the arrival of children within the family. Each couple is personable, responsible when they receive the gift of life, whether it is wished for or unintended. When we speak of the end of life, we are confronted with questions regarding aging, palliative care, human dignity, etc. The article on Growing Old emphasizes that it is not only a gift in many aspects, but it is also an art of living, of the art of life, and an important lesson for the elder to teach the younger ones. There are many ethical and bioethical questions we need to take into consideration here. It is essentially today to reflect together from within the Roman Catholic tradition and to look at bioethical questions and issues from the perspective of a Christian moral anthropology, according to which the deepest source of strength and resilience can be described by means of the triad of virtues, faith, hope, and love. I come now to my end of my talk. The Chinese version of my book counts 12 contributions, one of which is written by Bishop Johann Bonny of Antwerp, and the other one by Professor Roger Werhahn, Professor of Moral Theology at the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. You will hear and see them later at your seminar. Both are dear and long-standing friends. I wish to thank them for having the time to introduce to you their own article via video conference as well. But I am of course deeply grateful to all the other faithful friends who have contributed with great joy an article to this volume. I have tried in this half an hour to explain to you why I wrote this book and why my husband and I founded the International Academy for Marital Spirituality. I also shared some insights from our academic studies and from my personal experience on the theme of marriage, family, and spirituality. of this come mostly from a European context, but I hope you can gain some insights out of it for your Asian context. It is very important to us to understand and to teach the typical Asian aspects of marriage and family. I wish you now a successful colloquium and a fruitful reflection and exchange, and look forward to hearing the outcome of your seminar. And when you have a spare volume of my book in Chinese version, I would be very happy to receive a copy. Thank you so much, and farewell and God bless. Aldegonde, Brenninkmeijer.